Never even cold November rain.
Is that Guns N' Roses?
That is Guns and fucking Roses, man.
Oh, yeah! You think that song ends at
There
four
we go.
minutes? Nope,
That
there's
song
more.
ends in 9 minutes and 12 seconds.
There's a dip, but then there's more song. All right, welcome, welcome everybody to another episode of the Superhero Movie Club, a community of superhero movie fans. All nerds welcome, but please wipe your feet at the door. I'm your comic book cultured host, Michael Maurer, joined by the movie maestro
James Skylar Hutzma.
and the scientific scholar.
Ben Anderson.
Oh,
SH.
and oh, Ben, almost again overstepping. We also have a special guest with us tonight, our X-Men expert.
Ryan Schnard.
Yeah! That wasn't written down in the outline, and it always throws people off because they're like, oh, are we going on script? Nope. Things get a little hasty, like this transition to being back on the script. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. Really only throws me off because there's no gap between when I say my name and that SHMC is your premier movie discussion podcast. Every week we continue our journey exploring our favorite subject, superhero movies. Every fan sees the movies differently, so we gather some amateur experts to discuss certain aspects of the movie.
Whether it's money, comic books, hollow character deaths, music, or science, SHMC talks about it all in this week's episode. X-Men: The Last Stand. And yes, there will be spoilers.
Sounds like you almost wanted to say X-Men 3: The Last Stand.
The Last Stand.
It feels like it. And I always call this X-Men 3, and everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yep, it
But-
doesn't have a number, though.
It is, in fact, the third X-Men movie, so...
All right, then. First opinions around the board. Let's start with Benjamin.
Yeah, so I have not seen any of the original X-Men trilogy. So in that sense, I feel like I might have had a lesser experience with this one because how should I explain this? So when you're writing a story, there's two things you have to address that your audience is going to ask eventually. First question they're going to ask you is, who the fuck are these people? And the second thing they're asked is, why do I give a shit? And I feel like some of those questions would have been answered in the first two movies, but I haven't seen them. So the whole time I was asking myself, who are these people and why do I care?
It's a sequel. I mean,
The sequel, this is like when I saw Pirates of the Caribbean 3 without seeing Pirates of the Caribbean 2. I was like, okay, I recognize these people, but I feel like I'm missing a lot.
okay. All right,
So
fine.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. It was no X-Men Days of Future Past, but it was no X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I
That's-
appreciated that. Well, there was, the social commentary that the X-Men movies are kind of known for. That it was less heavy-handed than X-Men First Class.
Less heavy-handed?
Yes, at least less dumb.
I suppose.
It was still
right.
pretty heavy-handed, but
Like, the social commentary is there, but it's dealt in a more subtle way that applies to the movie
yes.
and less obvious.
Yeah, there's nothing where they're like mutant and proud, and you're like, I wonder what this movie's about. Is there an allegory here? I don't know. I mean,
all right.
obviously there is, but it's handled better than
Popcorn. Oh, I was gesturing you to popcorn.
Oh, excuse me, I was not done. I thought you were cutting me off.
Oh no.
Popcorn.
Then go ahead.
Popcorn, your bitch ass, Michael.
Okay. X-Men 3, regarded as, at the time, the worst X-Men movie of all time, but now there is certainly a deeper valley out there, and we've talked about it. It was Wolverine. X-Men 3 is... Man, watching it, again, I've come to realize that it is indeed an entertaining movie. From just like an action movie standpoint, this is just me maybe, the plot can get really hard to follow because the the storytelling mechanisms aren't that well refined. I'm sounding pretentious here, because basically what happened in X-Men 3 is you got like 6 different plot points. You had Dark Phoenix, you had Angel, you had of course Scott's death, Xavier's death, and then anything that dealt with Wolverine, I guess. Rogue's need to the cure was such a big deal, but like very few of these stories really connected in a conclusive way that it felt like they were telling one big tale. It all felt like just 6 different stories in a 2.5-hour period that just sort of interconnected with each other, not or just like were placed side by side, like Pulp Fiction style. Well, not Pulp Fiction. It's really hard to explain because, well, it's not a bad movie in any way, I don't think. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just not a really good X-Men movie. Because when we talk about the Cure and that whole setup, you're thinking that's going to be a big plot of the film. But it gets, by Act 2, it's kind of like pushed to the side, and it all becomes about this war with Magneto. And then out of nowhere, Dark Phoenix is the big villain that you have to deal with. So I don't know. It kind of felt like how the storytelling was done in Amazing Spider-Man 2. What you got to say about that film? Neither here nor there. So go ahead, Skylar.
All right. X-Men: The Last Stand is a decent action movie, I will say, and a mostly disappointing X-Men movie. It's easily the zippiest X-Men movie thus far. It gets to the action set pieces and breezes along without having to invest too much in it. At the same time, the fact that it's an X-Men movie has some certain expectations to it, and putting aside the fact that there's a lesser filmmaker at the helm this time, and it's somewhat apparent, just the fact that our focus is battled between the Cure storyline and the Dark Phoenix storyline, it feels like they're constantly just shortchanging each other, and it makes for a more hollow experience, I think, watching it. Not to mention that it seems like the entire mechanism they use to try and get us invested in the movie is just killing off characters willy-nilly, which it doesn't play out quite as well as I think they were expecting.
That only works if you care about the characters to begin with.
Well, they got rid of Cyclops for studio reasons. I mean, that wasn't even like a storytelling plot. It was because time was being taken up of him being filmed on Superman Returns.
Also, I don't give a shit about Cyclops.
Very underappreciated character in the X-Men movie franchise.
Probably because he hasn't been portrayed the best thus far, but that's neither here nor there.
Moving on to Ryan.
Yeah, I don't dislike the movie. It definitely was the low point of the original trilogy, but as you said, that is not the low point now. I watched it again last night actually with the commentary by Ratner and then both of the writers, just to get myself kind of, because I haven't watched it in a number of years. But it was.
You see, Skyward, this is how you prepare.
It wasn't. Yeah, like I said, it wasn't bad. It was entertaining. It just could have been a bit deeper. And there were too many characters that really got no development. And a few. Again, this is a comic book tweaks that obviously don't quite matter because it's a movie and you're going to get into them later anyway. But yeah, so not bad, but could have been better.
Oh, I thought I was going to give you an offer to rebuttal my dig. All right, so let's talk about money dealing with X-Men 3 with a whopping budget of $210 million. How are we sitting here with money stats, Sky Guy?
I'd say we're sitting pretty damn good. Domestic gross on the 2006 third installment ended up at $234 million. Foreign gross was really damn close at $224 million, for a grand total of $459 million worldwide. International blockbuster. Fox, took the money to the bank on this one. As of now, it is still the biggest X-Men movie in America by just $400,000.
Wait, hold on. What? Biggest X-Men movie in America by just 400,000. Oh, okay. I'm getting my numbers mixed up because I'm
No.
thinking $400,000 is like 400 million. And I'm like, that's a big difference.
Yeah, no. X-Men Days of Future Past last summer came really, really close to surpassing it, but stopped just short of it.
Another example of the sequel train brings the money in.
No kidding. I have no doubt that the next X-Men movie will surpass it as the biggest X-Men movie this side of the shores. Meanwhile, it is by far not the biggest movie in the series internationally, because Days of Future Past did wipe the floor with it.
Well, because that's, international numbers. We talk about it. I feel as if there's going to be like a drinking game devised for this show, because it's like anytime we talk about how international numbers have increased over the years. Anytime we harken back to an old soundtrack that it reminds us of.
Every time we mention how great Ghostbusters 2 was.
Ghostbusters 2 was a good movie.
It was so good.
Yep, Ghostbusters 2.
Better
what
than
a
this.
good movie.
Better than this schlock.
Ghostbusters 2, starring Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd.
What the fuck are you guys doing?
Excuse me?
I'm trying to make him understand he said Ghostbusters 2 when he meant to say Ghost Rider 2.
Oh, whatever. Every time we talk about Ghostbusters, too, as well. It's starring Ghost, yeah.
I was
Starring
like,
Ghostbuster.
when's he gonna notice?
I would not have noticed, ever.
Okay, let's talk about the comic book section here.
Ghostbuster, I hardly know her.
There it is. Take a drink. Okay. So, with comic book section, let's talk about some of comic book characters that have premiered in this film, as well as comic book storylines that the movie is based on. The movie is primarily based on two stories. We have Astonishing X-Men Volume 3, The Cure arc by Joss Whedon, which of course deals with the development of a mutant cure. The comic books are much better able to flesh out that story than a movie is, and making it exciting as well. And then, of course, the Dark Phoenix Saga by Chris Claremont. And I'll describe that in a minute or in a little bit, because I'm about to, here we go, guys, rapid fire again with the X-Men knowledge, because, man, X-Men loves throwing in as many freaking characters as possible. And I'm going to ignore some of the teeny ones, like there was a mention of the Stepford Cuckoos. Kid Omega was in the background with them. There was Psylocke and Arclight were there, but did like two things, and I don't even want to talk about the weird mixture of the Caliban mixed with Quicksilver, and then she ended up calling herself Callisto in the movie. What the hell is Glob Herman? That just got added.
That is another one like Kid Omega that was just kind of in the background. He does even less than Kid Omega in the comics. So I just threw him on there because I knew he was another name.
Another name. See, you learn so many things. So let's start with the first character here, Dr. Kavita Rao, Astonishing X-Men Volume 3, Number 1 premiere with Joss Whedon and John Cassidy, and this is the character that created the cure for the mutant X gene. In the comic book, she has a closer relationship with Dr. Hank McCoy, assuming that they worked together in genetics beforehand, but in the movie, she's just a doctor that did it and then dies. Good. So, moving on. Multiple Man, a.k.a. Jamie Madrox, premiered in giant-sized Fantastic Four number 4 in 1975 by Len Wein, Chris Claremont, and John Buscema. Did I pronounce it wrong again? Len Wein. can never get this right.
Len Wein.
Wine. Damn it. Okay. And he's portrayed by Eric Dane in the movie for about 2 scenes. Peter David is the man best known for fleshing out this character because Multiple Man is known for having multiple personality disorder. Go figure. His duplicates are completely sentient. That's kind of what makes him very interesting. So when he creates a dupe of himself, they have their own thoughts, their own passions. They develop their own destinies as soon as they separate themselves from Jamie. So they often go rogue, and he has to like hunt them down because the way he reabsorbs them, is by touching them. And he's done that like sometimes unknowingly with people that turned out to be a piece of him. And I think he ended up having, I don't know. There's so many weird stories out there. There's some sort of weird explanation for one time he had sex with a character and then reabsorbed that character because that was actually originally a clone of him. It's messed up. X-Men gets messed up.
What it was his dupe impregnated somebody and he didn't realize that it was his dupe, not him. So when he touched the baby, he absorbed the baby.
Oh my God!
That's
See,
fucked.
what the hell?
Comic books are where very strange, touched people go to deliver our nightmares.
All right. Next character, Juggernaut, premiering in X-Men number 12. The first line by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1965, and he is Professor X's half-brother, not addressed at all in the movie. But way back in time, the origin is that Cain Marko, Juggernaut's real name, his father favored Charles Xavier, and abused his own son. This made Cain really like resent Charles from childhood and from then on out unrationally, and eventually he finds a magic gem from a mystical being known as Cyttorak. So he's been and then that's how he gets his powers and becomes the Juggernaut. He's not actually a mutant. He's just mystically enhanced. He's been in so many, magic. He's been in so many comics. Been on like the Brotherhood of Evil as well as the X-Men multiple times. One time, Colossus actually maintained power of the gem and became Juggernaut instead. Bitch.
I was wondering when we were going to get to that.
And in the movie, you see a mutant version of Juggernaut just to make things simpler. I'm not going to go ahead and even say he was the ultimate Marvel Ultimate version of Juggernaut. I think it was just make him a mutant, save us some time here, make it easy on our audience.
Fun fact, for X-Men Days of Future Past, in the original draft, it was supposed to be Juggernaut who broke Magneto out of the Pentagon instead of Quicksilver, which they eventually went with.
Oh, but, they wanted a scandal to deal with naming rights because Fox and Marvel.
And they won, so good for them.
I think, I guess they won. The other team just relented quicker. The next character we have is Angel, premiering in X-Men number 1. 1963, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Angel, one of the founding members of the X-Men team, heir to the Worthington fortune, probably the flakiest of the original 5 members of the team. He leaves and comes back, and he's the least consistent member. He's off doing his own thing a lot, mostly because he doesn't have a very particularly interesting power, and his backstory isn't all that intriguing either. He's a rich playboy who can fly. Awesome. Until eventually... but Batman can't fly. Sorry. Eventually, he gets depowered and then gets his powers back by the evil mutant known as, and soon to be known throughout the land, Apocalypse. And that's when he becomes Archangel, and he gets like techno-organic wings and blue skin, and he actually becomes a horseman of death. And one of his second mutations, his latent mutations, involved a healing factor, where the capabilities are inconsistent because sometimes it's just like a healing factor that applies to him, but other times he can like perform a blood transfusion on other people, and his blood will heal their body, and then other times that won't apply either. It's all writer's discretion because comic books. Moving on. Next character, Beast. X-Men #1 again, another member of the original 5. In case you're wondering, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Iceman, Beast, Angel. Originally, we know now that Beast is not blue, as we saw in X-Men First Class. That was a plot point where he develops a second mutation where he becomes blue and furry, and this was done because writers felt he wasn't, or artists felt he wasn't visually compelling enough because he was just this apish-looking white guy, and they're like, let's make him like a fur ball, and that'll be more fun to draw. Beast is known for being the most level-headed mutant. He's been on multiple X-Men teams, the Avengers, the Defenders, and if you're ever wondering if they strayed away from the character in the movie, don't. Because in my humble opinion, Kelsey Grammer portrayed Hank McCoy to 100%.
Kelsey Grammer was the perfect Beast. I just about lost it when he said, "All my stars and garters."
He was amazing. He was everything you wanted. Just that perfect level of very poetic and starry-eyed when he's talking and up above, but not snobbish, just intelligent, and then at the same time feral. He can rip a throat if he needs to. Next character we have is the first big appearance of Shadowcat, who premiered in Uncanny X-Men #129 in 1980 by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. While she was cameoed in X-Men 1 and 2 movies, this is the first time we see her portrayed and have lines, at least like a lot. She's actually in this movie for a fair amount. Kitty Pryde has gone through worlds of character development throughout the years, probably more than any other X-Men character, I'd have to say. She started out as this cute Jewish teenage nerd girl who a lot of X-Men fanboy readers had a crush on, and she's grown up into a teacher at the Xavier Institute, to the leader of the X-Men, been romantically involved with Colossus back and forth. She has a pet dragon named Lockheed. There are so many alternate versions of Kitty Pryde, good and bad. The bad ones include ninjas that are very cold and heartless, or good ones where she became the first mutant president ever. I mean, Kitty Pryde is a character to the X-Men who is essential to almost every story she appears in. I mean, just in Astonishing X-Men, that ends with her riding a bullet, literally a planet-sized bullet, into space. She's done some weird stuff, all right? So have many other characters, but let's get to the final character on the comic book list, Dark Phoenix. Premiered in X-Men 129, same as Kitty Pryde, by Chris Claremont, John Byrne, and somewhat influenced by Dave Cockrum as well, or mostly influenced by Dave Cockrum, I suppose. And this is one of the most monumental series in Marvel history. Back from a space mission, Jean bonds with a cosmic being known as the Phoenix Force. I'm about to go through this in a shortened version, okay? Get ready. This Phoenix Force gives her godlike powers, but she must use them, firstly, to repair a fracture in a reality-altering gem known as the M'Kraan Crystal. Shortly after she does this task, she loses control of this bond, and the blind power of the Phoenix Force takes over. Unstoppable, she absorbs a star for power, causing the death of a solar system and the genocide of billions. She is hunted down by bird people space police known as the Shi'ar and put on trial after Professor X temporarily blocks out the Phoenix persona. After an epic trial by combat between the Shi'ar Imperial Guard and the X-Men, Jean believes herself to be too dangerous and commits suicide, before the Phoenix could take back control.
Why didn't they do that story for the movie? I mean, that's easy and accessible, and people will get that.
No,
Yeah.
actually, it's too weird.
It is really weird.
Yeah, that's the joke.
But
Oh. Okay.
screw you guys. But the
Fun fact: she was initially not supposed to die at the end of that storyline.
oh yeah.
The initial ending was she essentially got a power lobotomy, so she's no longer a mutant. But Marvel editorial came in and said, no, she killed billions of people. She has to die.
Oh yeah, Jim Shooter was furious at the idea that she would not suffer harsh consequences for being a genocidal maniac.
That's what they did for just starting to pay attention halfway through a storyline.
Well, yeah, yeah. Okay. I've read. There's many tales about the back end of what was going on when this comic book series was being made. Because, like I said, this is one of the biggest events. This is the first time a main character gets killed off in such a just dramatic fashion. And you get Chris Claremont. If you've ever read the Phoenix Saga, it is wordy. Chris Claremont loves words, and it is just like this giant piece of poetry about how, absolute power corrupts absolutely whether you want it to or not, and you must face the consequences of responsibilities of what you've done after you've committed atrocities. And no matter how much your friends love you and how much you felt you weren't in control, you have to take responsibility, and you have to make the hard choice.
Do you know if this saga preceded the Death of Gwen Stacy one? I just know you're talking about, it's the first time a major character is killed off.
It was post Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, definitely post Gwen Stacy.
Okay.
Gwen Stacy happened, I think, in 1970s. But the thing about Gwen Stacy was she was a civilian. The big deal was Gwen Stacy died a civilian. She was the first being involved with a superhero. This is the first time a superhero has to own up to making like a mistake, or
billions of mistakes all at once.
Yeah. So I'm done. I can breathe. We've burned through. I mean, I don't know how long until we get to X2, but damn it, X-Men movies. Could you just cool it on the amount of characters? I just watched the X-Men Apocalypse trailer, and you know what? They're throwing in like 15 new characters into that movie too. And I'm just like, dear God, I'm gonna die.
Do you know if X-Men Apocalypse is going to be based on X-Men Legends 2 Age of Apocalypse for the Nintendo GameCube?
Or for PS2 and Xbox.
GameCube was the definitive version.
I suppose you might be right. But no, it won't.
Oh, that's probably okay.
Well, yeah, that dealt with like Wraith was in that, or no, Abyss was in that, and there was a character in there called Holocaust, and it's like, okay,
everybody in that one.
Yeah. Okay. The actual Age of Apocalypse, we'll talk about this more later, but the actual Age of Apocalypse storyline, while big and lasted a long time in X-Men world, in my opinion, was like none of it was really that good. All right, so speaking of not good, just kidding.
Oh, thanks. Great. Oh, you're so welcome.
Let's move on to
Merry
the music.
fucking Christmas, people.
Dude, this is gonna air way after Christmas.
I know.
Sorry, that's just where I ended, and you know how I segue. Here, let's move on to Skylar's music section. Take it away, homeboy.
All right, well, you can take a breather now because I'm going to be talking about the score for X-Men: The Last Stand, done by John Powell, who I believe this is the first time we have referenced him and his work, and it's probably going to be the last time until he does something upcoming. Very talented composer, got his start in Hans Zimmer's remote control productions studio, largely known for being the composer of the Bourne movies and How to Train Your Dragon films. And I would say, listening to this score, it ranks probably among the top 3 best, which puts it definitely at odds with the movie itself. This would be his only score he wrote for X-Men movies, and like pretty much everyone else, instead of copying previous themes and arcs and all that stuff, he came up with his own theme for the X-Men. So let us take a listen to what he came up with in Bathroom Titles.
I think there were some definite moments in this movie where you could kind of tell that they were leaning on the music to carry the scene.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. I think Powell's a strong composer, and what he's writing for this movie is really busy, big, dramatic, and action-oriented, much like the plot itself. The next track I have up on the queue is a song called Dark Phoenix's Tragedy, which, like I said, very action-oriented, but the sounds he comes up with for this particular part of the movie and how it shifts from just the sound of an all-out brawl to kind of, well, as the title indicates, a tragedy and a character losing control, and how he portrays that in his music, I think makes it kind of one of my favorite superhero tracks, maybe of all time. So let's take a listen.
I closed my eyes for that track, and I tried to, picture what does that sound like? Where am I? And a lot of the times I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of a time in this movie, but I went to a completely new scene, and when I'm listening to that, I heard like two brothers on a bridge preparing to fight each other. No reason, I don't know why. But just like they had to fight each other to the death. That's the music I was hearing. Is that weird?
It's both a good and bad thing, On one hand, it doesn't exactly paint the exact image of the picture it's accompanying. On the other hand, it's thematically malleable so that you can use it and listen to it in any sort of situation that is that dramatic. Also worth note, if you listen in there, there's some early uses of our ever favorite, hammer on the anvil sound that have showed up in Iron Man and Thor and basically every Marvel movie. I'm guessing in relation to the Juggernaut being there.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I think of hammer on anvil. I think, the Juggernaut, bitch.
I have to imagine just film composers are having like a monthly coffee clutch or something where it's like, oh, and what upcoming project are you using the hammer and anvil sound on? Oh, it
Oh,
is.
I'm doing a He-Man. I'm doing a He-Man project. Oh,
Oh,
we've got Todd over here with World of Warcraft. He said he got some great usage for the orc scenes.
exactly. No, it's not going anywhere. Is I think what should be taken away from this. But final track I have on the docket is another Phoenix-related track, uh, Phoenix Rising, because I just feel like the most harrowing parts of the music for this movie are in relation to that character. This one, it's much like the finale itself, is all-out chaos, big 80-piece choir singing doom and gloom, while that Phoenix theme sneaks in once more. Let's take a listen.
Love it. Not gonna lie, man, it's like a video game boss battle. It's awesome. It's like that is a finale. I have to back things up real quick because I have to make note. Viewers must know. All right, when I was a little child and I saw this movie for the first time in theaters, big X-Men fan, but most of my knowledge came from, of course, X-Men the animated series. And when you think Phoenix, what image comes to your mind? A bird, right?
A
A
big
bird,
fiery
yeah.
bird.
a
Fox
bird
from Harry
on,
Potter.
on fire. A
Yep.
bird that's on fire. Throughout this whole movie, as a kid, I was going, when is the Phoenix gonna turn on fire? Damn it. Like, I was just waiting for it, but instead you had this weird old lady face and melting disintegration of people effect. Terrifying, really, it is, honestly, if you think about it, but I wanted fire and brimstone, baby. I wanted a lot of it.
There's certainly a lot of old lady face going on.
Yeah, I didn't. I wanted like her hair to like explode into a crown of flames, and just an image of a phoenix to show up. Everybody keeps calling it that, but we haven't seen an image of a phoenix since the cliffhanger of X2. Okay, I'm done. Any more of music? I'm sorry, I went on a tangent there.
It's okay. We'll find something to do with it, I'm sure. Am I wrong in thinking this is just really solid film score writing?
Oh,
You're
this
not
is
like it.
amazing. I won't even say solid. I'll say this is above like his pay grade. Like, this is good. This is really good. It's distinctive. It fits the movie where it needs to. In fact, it's better than like you said. The problem with the movie was that the stories weren't coming together. But I don't know, if you take each piece on its own and with the music behind it and the acting and the action, and you're like, this is entertaining. This is good.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The soundtrack kind of gives some emotional weight to a otherwise lifeless movie.
A little, yeah. It is kind of, the relationships are probably another weakness of the film. You don't really feel a lot for the characters outside of maybe Wolverine and Jean.
Who are these people and why should I care?
And quite honestly, I think a good score can mean the difference between a totally forgettable movie and a, just slightly disappointing movie. Like this one, story elements aren't really working, but we still look back on it as being pretty entertaining.
It's funny that you say forgettable, because the other night when I was thinking about what I was going to write for this movie, I stopped and thought, and I went, hold on, was there a second the Wolverine movie already. Like I had lost track for like literally just a moment. I was in the bathroom. I go, hold on. Did the Wolverine 2 come out? And I just didn't know.
That one has not aged well at all.
No.
And neither has its score.
All right. So, any other music to speak of?
No, I really look forward to the next time John Powell takes up a superhero project.
Come back to us, John. Okay, so let's move on to Benjamin and Science.
Hey.
Hey, buddy. All right, so you told me beforehand that you had no idea what you were going to talk about. So we've rummaged together a few topics.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with a quick and easy and dirty one. And in the final fight, you had the very satisfying scene of Iceman going up against Pyro. And while good guy wins and bad guy loses, from a scientific standpoint, can you explain why cold would probably beat fire?
If it's real cold, then let me think about this. There's a couple ways I could answer. Basically, to beat fire, you have to take away oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get something cold enough, there's not going to be oxygen's not going to move around. Like all those atoms are just going to slow down and stay in one spot. And then you can't burn because nothing. Like if it's burning, that means there's enough energy to make a chemical reaction happen. But if it's too cold, there's not enough energy in the system. Nothing's going to happen.
Intriguing.
That's basically it.
Okay. Well, let's move right on to a more exciting topic then.
Mm-hmm.
Plastic weaponry. Okay?
Yes.
Because in the movie, of course, they had to combat Magneto by having nothing but plastic weapons.
Can't have any metal.
And first of all, is it real? Yes or no?
Yes.
I knew this. I was asking rhetorically because what's real, and it's awesome, but it's also a little scary.
And like borderline illegal. Like it's an illegal gray area. So there are companies and individuals who have like prototypes basically for 3D printed firearms.
So they have a 3D printer, and they create designs, the 3D printing modeling software.
Yeah, that
for
function.
A gun.
They fire, and you can shoot people with them, and not like just like BB guns and pistols and stuff. But there are you can find these 3D printed AK-47s, like assault rifles.
Yeah, like there's a really good Vice documentary about a guy whose it's like main quest is to make sure that everyone has a 3D printed gun in their house. Okay.
What a wonderful world!
Let's get past his personal ideology and look at how fascinating it is that you can build a gun in your own home now.
You can you can go on the internet, download the plans, and then just turn on your 3D printer overnight and have an assault rifle.
Now the problem with this is a lot of the designs are incomplete because the materials are plastic, right? With metal, you get a lot less jamming materials because it moves less, right? It's more sturdy.
So plastic is, I mean, the reason it's called plastic is because it has plasticity. It can bend. It deforms pretty easily. That's what makes it so useful. That's not what you want all the time when you're designing a gun, which has to be very precisely engineered so that it functions properly.
Okay.
So
real quick, Ben. You have a microphone hooked up? Is that right?
No.
No. Okay.
That my webcam sounds better.
Okay. So when you're plugged in, I think your microphone is actually this bad boy right here. When you're plugged in like that. Yeah. Okay. Because when you move around, it makes a lot of sound.
Okay.
Just a heads up.
I'll try to hold still. Is there anything you need me to repeat?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I can. There were moments where it was good, but I'm
Okay.
just letting you know that when you started doing this, started shuffling.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna double check my inputs because I can force it to go through this microphone up here.
But then won't we get playback?
No, because it would still be outputting to my earbud. It just
Oh,
wouldn't
okay.
be using this for the.
Yeah,
Microphone.
it's definitely the microphone right here. Okay. Stop doing that. It's fucking annoying. All right, it's fine. Let's just keep things moving because, like I said, I want to play some Fallout 4 tonight. Damn it. All right.
Okay, well,
So
I don't know how to get it to use the whatever,
mhm.
so we'll just roll with it. I'll
Next
just sit very
topic.
still.
Besides
Next topic.
awesome and all, but there's that scene where Arclight claps her hand together and uses her power of shockwaves to blast apart all of the plastic guns.
Yeah,
Real or not?
probably not.
Really?
I mean, if it's big enough to shatter a plastic gun, it's gonna throw the whoever's holding it. It's gonna shatter them too.
Really? Okay, because that's how my thought was, you can shatter glass with a high wave frequency,
Yeah,
and I'm assuming she's sort of doing the same thing by having the ability to match her shockwaves that she manifests to the same frequency as other objects, so that they just
Mind
disintegrate.
if I throw in my 2 cents?
Yeah.
I think
Oh, he knows.
theoretically possible, based on different objects have different resonant frequencies. So theoretically, if you were to hit that resonant frequency, it would shatter the one without shattering something else, like you said, Michael, with glass versus other objects.
yeah. The thing is that with resonant frequencies, it has to resonate. It has to it takes some time to get it to resonate. It doesn't happen
I agree.
instantly.
Again,
So
hypothetically, and it's a movie.
it's a movie. It's exciting. It's an exciting action sequence. So that's why.
But what we might need to inform is that Ryan is also a physics major.
Oh, there we go.
Just in case you
Greetings,
didn't know,
fellow
Ben.
nerd.
We have nothing but physics majors on for the podcast. Or well, no, I guess Grant's not a physics major. But anyway,
And neither are you and Skylar.
I meant for guests. Damn it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Tom was a nurse, but let's move to the last, final, big topic of
Yeah.
science. All right,
The
and
one I
this
actually wanted to talk about.
well, I mean, can't spend the whole time on one topic. I feel as if we get too bogged down that way.
True.
Or we might not. We spent a lot of time on twins, and that was really exciting for Hellboy 2, the whole way. But anyway, intangibility. All right, intangibility.
Mhm.
Shadowcat can go through walls, and this is the first time we see that power in full-fledged use. Explain it to me scientifically in a real-world perspective. Can a person pass? Well, I mean, can anything go through another object?
Yes, is the short answer.
What?
Okay, so quantum mechanics. The central idea of quantum mechanics is that all matter has properties of both particles and waves. So let's say you have a pond and you drop two rocks in it and there's ripples, right? And they come across and they meet each other and those waves pass right through each other, right?
Okay.
So everyday matter has these wave-like properties. And in fact, there are times when you can treat it entirely like a wave. If you have an electron, sometimes you treat it like a particle, sometimes you treat it like a wave, depending on the type of problem you're solving. But really, it has properties of both. So
That's confusing, but okay. Keep going.
So on a small scale, if you shoot a electron into a kind of electrical barrier, like a very strong electric field, if you do this, using your electrodynamic equations from your freshman or sophomore year of physics classes, you'll say,
Okay.
okay, well, it's gonna bounce right off that barrier. You know, it's like throwing a ball at the wall. It's going to bounce right off. And that's true most of the time. But since you have wave-like properties to both the barrier and the electron, it's going to be like a wave passing through another wave. So a certain percentage of the time, it's going to go straight through. And they've seen this occur in the lab where they shoot electrons at like an electric potential barrier, and a certain percentage of the time, it just goes right through.
I like generally they call it quantum tunneling.
Yes, yeah. That phenomenon is called quantum tunneling.
Yeah, quantum tunneling. So if you throw, like you said, a ball at the wall or something like that, we know it's going to bounce back. But technically, there is a non-zero probability that it will pass through said wall.
Right.
It's minuscule, but theoretically, there is a non-zero probability.
Yeah. So there's nothing special about the electron except that the probability is fairly high that it'll pass right through because it's so small. Quantum effects are they happen more when you're dealing with something very, very small.
I was gonna say let's take a moment and just make the background information here that the smaller you get in science, the more chances that weird, crazy shit is gonna happen.
Yes.
Or extraordinarily large. Black holes are weird. The center of galaxies are weird. Like everyday stuff, that's boring.
Mm-hmm.
The very small is fascinating.
Like there's a chance that electron could change its charge, right?
Well, charge is conserved quantity, so there'd have to be a corresponding change somewhere else in the universe.
Yeah, but that's happened. We've talked about that. That's like teleportation, right?
Um,
Or no, it's telekinesis, something like that. I forget what superpower we attributed.
Oh gosh,
Where
I'm trying to think.
things switch the phantom at the same time.
Yeah, so there's a. Oh, that's spooky action at a distance, and it's not charge; it's spin.
How did we describe that one? Was that teleportation?
That was. Oh, I don't know. I forget what it was.
Oh, this is gonna bum me out.
Yeah.
We should know this. Anyway,
I forget.
but the bigger you get,
The bigger you get, this is
the
less
smaller-
likely to occur, but the
and it's
probability is
already
never
really,
zero.
really, yeah. Oh wow, it's so hold. Oh, I remember seeing this in a movie where like she's like the probability is so essentially, I guess. Well, it may take like a billion forever years.
If you and I start throwing tennis balls at the wall right now, we'll be throwing tennis balls until the universe is cold, dead, and empty before the first one passes through. Those are the
Wow.
odds we're talking about.
And that's if like everyone in the world throws a tennis ball at the.
It doesn't
at a
matter.
ball, too. Yeah.
The odds are so low. It could be everyone in the world. It could be just me. It could be every, well, I can't
Isn't
say that.
so weird that it's never zero though.
It asymptotically approaches zero, but it is not zero.
That's amazing. Oh man,
Yeah.
phasing, guys.
Well,
It's out there.
That's how I'm guessing it works with Kitty Pryde. She's just extraordinarily lucky when she gets to walk through walls.
It phases her atoms through the atoms of a wall or whatever she's going through or whatever's going through her, which is why when she drags the Juggernaut into the floor, he should be atoms below the waist.
like mixed with a.
Care about science, so there you go.
That's what I've always been bugged about with phasing characters, basically. Do they always have to like concentrate on the soles of their feet to not sink into the crust of the earth, or what the hell is going on there?
Yeah, that's actually been.
I think phasing through objects is something you have to opt into.
Yeah, that was the plot of a Batman Beyond episode.
It was! And he died! It was terrible!
He kept phasing it through the ground until he died.
In Kitty's case, it's she has to concentrate to phase, so she can't lose concentration when she's going through a wall, otherwise she's dead. And another thing, while she's phased, she has to hold her breath, so she can't theoretically, because she can't breathe because she's not in the same kind of plane of
Oh my
existence.
gosh, you're right. There's no oxygen between walls.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Wow.
unless you know it's a like there's
Drywall.
yeah.
All right.
Mind
So
blown.
that's a
Like
loss.
oh, it's a Beatrix Potter story. I can't remember what it's called. I'll look it up.
Okay. All right. So let's move to Ryan here. We are cruising on our time, Barry. That's fine. It's a good episode. Let's keep going. I'm not, I mean, I used to have this setup where it was like it needed to be between 40 and 50 minutes, but I've kind of extended that between like 40 and 70. So Ryan, hit me through with some of the fun facts you learned on X-Men 3.
Well, some of the fun facts, I'll go back to the, not involving the science, but when we were talking Iceman versus Pyro, just kind of something I thought was interesting is apparently in the UK, you can't show headbutts in movies. So when Iceman headbutts Pyro, they had to cut that little bit at the end of the fight out. I don't know entirely how true that is, but that's what I heard.
They had to replace it.
Not like cut away or something like that. Or like
That's a weird inconclusion to the scene. Because it's just like, okay, are they just doing this for the next 30 minutes?
I don't know, man. But yeah, some other cool things is one thing as you mentioned earlier, is that James Marsden had limited availability based on his Superman Returns role, so he could not have. That's one reason they killed him off, was because they didn't have him to do a full role. But one thing I found was that production in general was rushed. The writers had less time, and I think part of it was Singer left, and then they went through a succession of directors they were trying to get before they landed on Ratner, specifically because he was able to do hit movies, i.e. Rush Hour, in a shorter, rushed schedule was one reason he was hired. So the writers had less time, and not only did the actor for Cyclops have limited availability due to other roles, but the actresses for Mystique and Rogue, Anna Paquin and Rebecca Romaine, were also doing other movies at the time and had limited availability.
What the hell was Rebecca Romaine doing in 2006?
I don't know.
Is that when Rollerball came out? The remake?
I don't know. I can't even remember what Anna Paquin was in at the time.
True Blood?
She's probably just getting started on True Blood.
Yeah, that was back in X-Men: The Last Stand came out in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say it was a couple years before True Blood.
Okay.
No, I know it was a movie. I just don't know what movie. And then also on the subject of Anna Paquin was they did shoot a couple different scenes for the end of the movie. You know, in the movie, he ends up getting the cure, and she comes back and says, you know, I had to. This is what I wanted to do. But they also shot a version where she came back and she's like, sorry, this is me. I couldn't do it. So they basically waited till editing to see what kind of version would work best, and they went with the one where she the cure, because it's like, well, okay, we want to show kind of a different view from within the X-Men camp, but also, you know, she went away for all this time, you know, just for her to come back and say, sorry, couldn't do it, was just kind of a letdown.
Yeah, see, because that's the issue with the whole film, isn't it? The fact that they had to think about which one they were going to do for the ending. That the cure was such a big, essential plot point to the movie, but in the end, the X-Men were unsure about their feelings towards it.
They left that, aside from the initial shock, they left it really ambiguous as to any of the X-Men's feelings about the subject.
Because, I mean, we go on to the Wolverine movie where Wolverine wants to get his powers taken away from him. And you have Beast, of course, who doesn't like the fact that he's blue and furry, and would like to look like a Kelsey Grammer again. But and then you have the mutants. Like, there was no big essential conversation about what the cure means for the mutant community. And I think that's what was really missing from the film. They thought they could supplement it with how Rogue felt about it, but we all kind of knew that Rogue was the number one mutant who wanted to get rid of her powers. And it would have shown so much of a journey if she didn't get rid of them. If it was just like, yeah, I do accept who I am. And instead, they didn't do that. In the X-Men comic book where they explain the cure, there's a great story where Beast is about to take the cure because he doesn't want to be blue and free, but Wolverine stops him, and he goes, hey, I want to do it as much as you do, but as soon as an X-Man does it, it's all over. Like,
that was during Whedon's, and that was a phenomenal storyline. It's still one of my favorites. Basically, he's like, yeah, if some kid in the freshman dorm decides he wants the cure, what do I care? But an X-Man does, we're done.
Yeah, our credibility is gone. We are accepting that we are a disease.
Not to mention, it's worth reiterating that they're making story decisions based on scheduling, which is just hella disappointing.
Well, that's real world, man. It's as much. It goes back to the ever present knowledge, the ever present idea that it's amazing that Hollywood movies get made. It's unreal. Just because of the amount of trepidations, the amount of roadblocks, and the amount of things that could go wrong that would cause a movie to not be made, and the fact that a movie ends up getting made, it's amazing.
Okay, I got one more fun fact, and just a quick question for all of you guys. Did you ever see the after credits scene, or were you even aware that there was an after credits scene for X-Men 3?
I was not aware.
I was aware and did see.
Michael?
Oh yeah, duh. I mean, come on.
Okay.
What happens in it?
So for Ben and those others that are listening that hadn't seen it, it harkens back to right at the beginning of the movie. Xavier was asking the class. He showed on the monitor Moira McTaggart, another character that they just kind of threw in. A guy lying in a bed. It's like, okay, this guy's brain dead. You know, would it be moral for us to put the mind of somebody else who's dying of terminal illness into this guy's body because, you know, technically he's a vegetable kind of thing. Basically what it does is it goes back to that lab, and Moira comes in and says, you know, how are you doing today? And the guy turns his head and says, you know, Moira, and she looks up and says, you know, Charles, because they don't explain it explicitly in the scene, but what I got from the commentary was that Xavier was so powerful, he was born with an identical twin who was brain dead, and that was who this guy was, and was kept in this bed as a vegetable his entire life.
Wow.
So when Xavier got killed by Phoenix before he died, he transferred his consciousness to his brain-dead twin brother, and that is why he is alive for Days of Future Past.
That's fucking terrible.
That's so convenient.
Oh, Deus Ex Machina my butt.
More like Deus Ex Machina, because poop. There's a poop joke.
Poop of the machine.
Ridiculous.
Oh wow! At least we have an answer.
Right. Which is kind of funny. I had to watch the commentary toward the end of the credits where they explain a scene that was completely ambiguous.
Everyone assumed he went into that guy's body, like the person he was talking about in the lecture. We all assumed he went because it didn't show the person. It just showed Moira McTaggart.
Mask and stuff, but it was actually Patrick Stewart laying in the bed.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yep.
I don't remember that. Maybe, I guess.
I mean, you don't see well because it's on a monitor and he's got stuff attached to his face. But
okay. But man, that's dumb. All right.
That's real silly.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't realize. Well, why does he still look like Xavier when he shows up at the end of the Wolverine?
Yeah, and why is he still paralyzed?
Yeah.
That part's
I just chalked it up to like there's so many continuity issues with these goddamn movies.
Well, there's
It's
that,
true.
but I also kind of they never actually explain in the movies how he got paralyzed. I mean,
Oh,
I,
first class.
well, okay, yeah, now they have, but to that point they had not.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
they were just like, okay, well maybe that was a trade-off. He could never use his leg. Well, no, never mind. That was wrong because he could walk in the flashbacks. Yeah, okay.
Let's not talk about continuity in X-Men,
Yes,
all right? We're gonna dive down a deep dark hole here.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll just not touch that.
Speaking of diving down a deep dark hole, let's get to the final segment tonight of drinking game rules for X-Men 3. They are bountiful and fun. Okay, I'm gonna start with the very simple rule: drink every time Logan heals from a near fatal injury.
Drink every time a character is needlessly killed off and/or cured.
What? Just one drink for that? I mean, I suppose it happens a couple of times. And that ending scene is going to be a waterfall.
Ooh.
Take a shot of Fireball every time Pyro uses a Fireball.
And a shot of Smirnoff Ice whenever Iceman uses ice.
You can have a lot of fun with
Shotgun it when the ice is up at the end.
Switch to a different kind of beer every time the movie switches to a different kind of plot point.
It's a good time to try different craft beers. Get a six-pack variety of Samuel Adams.
You'll have them all open at once.
Yep, that's how we roll. You have to assign a beer to a plot point. Our rules get complex, okay?
Speaking of drinking, finish your drink when you get to the greatest line of the entire movie, which is, of course, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch."
You guys know where they got that?
From the
It was
internet,
from
right?
Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I think.
No, it was these guys that was doing like a parody thing on the animated X-Men TV series, and that was a line that they had in there. And they showed it to Ratner's like, "You got to have this in here," and he's like, "Oh, that's perfect," and he put it.
Back when you could mash up. Oh man, this is when YouTube was taking off. This movie came out. YouTube
Yeah.
came out in 2005.
This is
So I guess this is when the internet was born.
this is when Web 2.0 was born. I was using the internet in 1998.
Yeah, but like that's dial-up.
Neopets.
Yeah. Remember dial-up, man?
Torture.
Get off the computer. I need to use the phone. Oh, kids
Take a
today.
drink if this movie reminds you of dial-up in any way.
For being kind of quaint and entertaining to do once in a while, just because you're like, oh yeah, this is old. This is how things used to be done. And then like, oh wait, this is boring.
Oh man. Take a drink. You know what? In your regular life, take a drink anytime anyone mentions Netscape.
Waterfall during the Stan Lee cameo.
I had to drink for Netscape.
And Chris Claremont cameo.
Whoa, Chris Claremont was in this movie? Where?
His cameo was immediately before, Stan Lee was the water coming out of the hose. The guy that was pushing the lawnmower that floated in the air, that was Claremont.
Oh my gosh! You see, that's the wonderful beauty of being a comic book writer / artist. Like, everybody knows Stan Lee. I'd say a fair amount of people know what like Frank Miller looks like, and Alan Moore you can spot a mile away, but or maybe not, depending on where you are. But if you're a famous comic book writer or artist, you are like a god at a convention. But as soon as you walk out on the street, nobody has a clue who you are. You could be in a movie and nobody has a clue.
Actually, it was the commentary. I didn't even catch it because it was so quick.
All right. Any other drinking game rules tonight?
Take a shot for every gratuitous throwaway cameo of a character.
Oh, no. You'll die.
Take a
No.
drink then. Just take a drink.
Drink for the Michael Jackson cameo in Men in Black 2, which is a different movie, but it's what I watched when I was procrastinating watching this one because I heard it wasn't that good.
Okay.
take
We're
I got one more. Take a drink at the shitty non-committal ending.
Should find out. Oh, you have to finish all of your beers at the end because all of the plot points wrap up. Or maybe they don't, so just leave your beers open. Orphan them in the
drink them.
fridge.
For
I'll finish
8
it.
years.
You can't finish those beers until you've finished watching X-Men Days of Future Past. Alright, so that looks like it's going to wrap it up today, superfans. Superhero Movie Club is recorded and produced by Tribe Cop Productions. If you like what you hear, show us your support by rating us on iTunes. Doesn't cost you anything at all. Alright? I mean, hell, you could probably copy-paste an Amazon review of a completely different product. I don't care. I really don't. Just click the little boop, 5 stars, because it just increases, it grows the community. I mean, it's the one thing we ask of you because we don't ask for money and we don't bog our content down with advertisements. Not that anyone wants to put their advertisements here, but if they did, we'd probably say no.
This episode has been brought to you by Michael's economic self-righteousness.
Fuck you.
Anyway, yeah, okay, head on over to our subreddit as well, reddit.com/r/superhero movie club, to keep talking about this episode with us. We love hearing from our fans, so head on over, r/superhero movie club.
You can also continue the conversation on our Twitter page at SuperheroMC. Tell us where you think X-Men The Last Stand ranks within the X-Men universe. Are you excited for X-Men Apocalypse? Let us know. And you can maybe turn up on the show.
Yeah, you can definitely turn up on the show. Let me tell you that. We're letting Ryan on. I mean, come on.
I know I get turned on the show. a Paulaner Hefeweizen, the world's greatest beer,
Oh
as
my
far as
God.
I'm concerned.
It looks like you're drinking out of a jar there. Is that moonshine?
It is a mason jar that has been affixed to a kind of goblet handle base thing.
You're so hipsterish.
Mason jar wine glass. Rednecks have that too. My family's got them.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I have to show you guys something.
No, hold on. Stay. Fuck. Because I just want to end the broadcast so I can not have to edit all of this speaking out. Motherfucker. Fuck you, man.
All right, if you want the world's greatest beer, this episode has been brought to you by Evil Twin Brewing and Even More Jesus. Their Imperial Stout, available for a limited time only.
All right.
The world's greatest. I'm
Stop
saving it
it.
for the birth of my firstborn.
That'll do today. I'm your host, Michael Maurer.
James Schuyler Houtsma.
Ben Anderson.
And guest Ryan Schnard. Thanks for having me, guys.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Ryan. And thank you, all of you across the land, for listening to Superhero Movie Club. We hope you have a super week.
Bye.